Hello and welcome to the IgniteHR Roundtable. Are there blind spots in your new hire screening program? I'm Joanna Davis and I'm the VP of GRHRA. Before we get started with this fantastic program, I want to go over a few upcoming events for GRHRA. I'm going to share my screen. All right, the first one is Let's Get Social Member Meetup. This event is tonight. It's at the Armored Gardens from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So come on out and network with your fellow HR professionals. Next, we have Learning About Age-Inclusive Management Strategies. This is on Wednesday, May 17th, starting at 12 p.m., and it's presented by Brian Caskey. Next, we have another IgniteHR Roundtable, Entrepreneurship and the Media, and this will be on June 1st, starting at 12 p.m., and is presented by the Quad City Business Journal. Next, I have a very exciting opportunity. I'll pull this up on our website real quick. We are hosting a workshop, Negotiations, a Human Relations Approach. This will be facilitated by Dale Carnegie of Iowa. It is a 2-hour negotiations workshop to help you improve your negotiation strategies. So I hope you take advantage and sign up for this great workshop that will occur on August 16th. All right, now a little bit about our speakers today. First, we have Mr. Daniel Conroy, who has been the Director of Investigations at Permar Security since 2005. He has served as president for the Iowa Association of Private Investigators twice, as well as over 15 years on their board. Also has been a regional director for National Council of Investigation and Security Services. Mr. Conroy has successfully completed the advanced John Reed technique of interviewing and interrogation. This is the same technique used by the FBI. John Reed technique is one of the most respected and used techniques in the world by investigators. We also have presenting today Miss Amy Fink, who is the backgrounds manager at Permar Security with over 13 years of experience in the background screening industry. Amy received her Bachelor of Science degree from Iowa State University in textile science. Throughout her career with Permar, she has been able to put a spotlight on her ability to problem solve with creativity, build relationships within the community, and innovatively develop new products and services. One of her favorite aspects of her job is learning and navigating the various state and federal compliance laws and regulations. Amy is FCRA certified, making her an expert in screening compliance. She keeps her expertise current as a participating member of the Professional Background Screening Association. I'll turn it over to both Dan and Amy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for including us in this roundtable, and we're very excited to present today. It'll be myself and Amy Fink. She is our background manager for our division here at Permar Security, and we're gonna cover several topics. But obviously the main thing, we're looking: are there blind spots in your new hire screening program? It gives us a chance to take a breath, step back, look at your own program, and kind of reflect of, okay, maybe it's time to look at a few items and adjust or change. And our goal today is simply have this as an interaction between you and us and open discussion. So if you guys have a question, topic, please type it in, let us know, and on the fly we can answer those. Or even if it's something that you want us to circle back on with you, just let us know. We just want to be a resource for you. So with that, kind of kick it off today, and just say welcome to everybody, and we'll start our program. And let me introduce Amy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending today. I appreciate that you're giving over your lunch hour to us to help kind of educate you in any way we can about the changes in the hiring arena as it relates to background screening. I want to just reiterate that feel free to unmute yourselves. We'd love for your feedback as we go along. Post a question in the chat if you prefer, but we are going to ask for feedback, of course, or response. So feel free to unmute as needed. And I think the appropriate way to start is by posing the question to all of you. What has changed in your organization or for your organization in the post-pandemic hiring arena? If anyone has any thoughts they want to bring up, we'd love to hear them. There's been so much that's changed in the last few years. And so we're sure that you all have your own individual experience. I would say that Dan and I came up with a few that we find really important in the world of onboarding, background screening, and how it relates to post-pandemic world. And the first would be remote hybrid work. Dan, do you want to take that one over?
Yeah, I think, before the pandemic, in our world, you really didn't hear about this hybrid work, remote, and all of a sudden we were all faced with the challenge of, keeping businesses running. So, well, you keep businesses running and you hope to have great employees, and you kind of adjust on the fly. Well, when you have good employees, what do you got to have? You got to have trust, right? So they're going to remotely work from home or wherever. They're not going to be in that office setting where you had that daily contact with them. And, you could literally look them in the eye. Hey, how are things going? Anything new? Anything I can help you with? Now everyone's separated and there's distance, so that feel that managers had or fellow employees have, you're missing that a little bit because it's new, for a lot of us, it was new. And then is it ever going back? Well, I don't think so. You listen to the experts out there, the hybrid work is here. And now there's certain companies that would want everybody back and they're faced with challenges that way. But for the most part, the people who are looking for jobs out there, it's one of their questions, can I work remotely? So, that's something that as, us in part of that process of hiring people and looking for good candidates, there's things that you're, okay, I'm going to interview this candidate. I want to see, different aspects of what they have, but keeping in mind, this might be a remote position that also you're looking at. But, not every job is remote. So, but it is definitely something that's impacted companies, worldwide. So, and I know in our neck of the woods here, it was a challenge at times too, for some people, and other people, what, this is the greatest thing ever. I love it.
Mm-hmm. And with that, of course, brings the greater need to review a background program. Do you need to scrutinize positions that will be remote or hybrid, or how can we find out if that person would be productive in this type of setting? How can we find out, are they a match culturally? Do they match our culture? And you can do these things through your background program. And so it's, of course, a great time to review it, what you currently have. And part of what Dan and I always say is, a long time ago, consumer reporting agencies like us, were kind of viewed as sort of negatively in a way where people thought, oh, they're going to do a background check on me. They just don't want me to be employed. But that is absolutely not the way we see things. We always say that we're not in business of preventing people from getting hired. We are in the business of helping employers build trust with their employees. If you can base some of that initial trust through the process of the background check and the results that you get back, that's great. You may have more of a opportunity to let them go, let them fly earlier on in the remote or hybrid setting, especially in those leadership type roles. But the next thing that we found that changed the game for our industry is the multi-generational workforce, and especially the introduction of a younger generation. You all have heard it before, and they brought it up at the Ignite GRHRA conference a couple weeks ago, where there's more generations in the workforce now than there ever has been before. And so it's really important that we put a spotlight on how to handle this. And it certainly does apply to the screening process. Dan, do you want to take over a little bit on this?
Yeah, and I always love this slide because it reminds me actually of my family. Not to be funny here, but I literally had both sets of grandparents at one time live with our family, and I have 6 siblings. And I look at this and I can literally see the write me as my grandparents, call me, my parents all the time, email me, my brothers and sisters. And then I have 20 nieces and nephews, and everything's text me, hit me up. So I see all these, different slides, but that's the challenge we have in the workplace. Like, you've got so many things coming at you, but one of the things is different generations of workforce, and they all bring different skills and talents and experiences that you want to hire and make your company better. But we've got to be aware of it. And how do we do that? And how do we get to them? And I know we're going to talk about technology and different things today, but that's one of the things you got to look at is when you're going after the best of the best, how do I reach them? How do we make our company, put its best foot forward when we're recruiting and doing the background check?
Something to be said for that younger generation entering the workforce. Did you know that Gen Z is technically younger than Google? That statement just kind of really puts it in perspective for a millennial sitting here in front of you today. If you grew up in a world where Google always existed from birth, that means when you are going into the workforce, you are looking at things entirely different than myself and all of the additional people before me when they entered the workforce. Dan mentioned technology. How are you attracting those younger generations with your online presence? If you don't have an online presence, you're probably not going to attract them. You just need to pay attention more so than ever to the branding, to what are some of the features you can deploy to make things convenient for them, mobile friendly, and of course, can they do it on their phone? So something to, and that's not just Gen Zers. There's all different types of people out there. If you're playing into the stereotypes, of course, that the younger the generation, the more tech savvy they tend to be. But everyone enjoys convenience, that's for sure. And everyone has their own level of skills when it comes to technology. So you may not just be playing into the younger generation, you are also considering all of those people that have that capability. The third thing that we think changed the game for us is the legalization of marijuana. This deeply impacts the screening process. It deeply impacts your policies, your programs that you have. Just take a look. The state of marijuana in our country right now, we might be on the cusp of adding another orange state in there. If you'll see on this map, it shows all of the orange states have legalized recreational marijuana. The blue states have legalized medical marijuana, while the white states do not have any legalized marijuana use in any way, shape, or form. Just last week, Minnesota, their Senate voted to legalize recreational marijuana. So what that means now is there's a few steps that they have to go through. So we get to watch in real time what's been happening over the last handful of years in all of these other orange states, where they now have to open it up to committees to review kind of that conviction process. So anyone with an existing marijuana conviction, or maybe they're in jail right now for a marijuana charge, maybe they're on probation, Or are they going to modify their laws so much so that it changes the severity or the classification of that marijuana charge? A lot of this, so many states across the country previously would have held marijuana in maybe a felony classification. And does your background policy state no felonies? We don't want to establish any blanket statements, of course, because that's a no-go or a faux pas in the world of adjudication. But now they're dropping those charges down from felonies to maybe or serious misdemeanors down to simple misdemeanors. A lot of these states are equating marijuana charges to a citation, such as a seatbelt ticket, not wearing your seatbelt or speeding. So it's certainly time to pay attention to your program. And it's impacted, legalization of marijuana has impacted the employment side of things tremendously. First of all, what Dan and I have identified is it's time to consider your method of testing. There's all sorts of methods out there right now. We've got urine-based testing, oral fluid testing, hair testing, and if you are one of those orange states, or you are employing people in one of those orange states, you can no longer test them and take any action on that person for having a positive marijuana test if you have a urine-based test, because the window of that is so much longer. The look back time goes back at minimum a week. So if that person used marijuana on a Saturday night, because it's legal in that state, but your company policy is, zero tolerance, and you test them on a Monday, you are probably going to get a hit on that. So considering shortening it up by using oral fluid testing is definitely an option and something we would recommend if you are encountering employment in states where you have recreational marijuana as an option. Get with your provider. You could get with Permar, talk over what your options are on testing to tighten up that program. The other thing is, Dan, did you have something you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of questions have come in. I think we're going through some, but I don't know if there's a way to check that for you, just so we can knock off a few of these as we go. Because
Sure.
I think one of them you touched on as far as like, have some employers removed, you see them removing drug testing from their background check, or modifying it, which we do, and you kind of talked about that from their test panel, but I didn't know if there was any other questions coming in that, kind of interact here.
Sure. Thanks for pointing that out, Dan. I got in tunnel vision over here.
That's all right. Yeah.
So I see Michelle came in with a question that said, do you see employers who include drug testing as part of their pre-employment activities eliminating marijuana from their test panel? Yes, we have. And we've seen it for all different reasons. Maybe it's for the reason that it's state mandated that you can no longer test for marijuana. For example, the state of New York no longer allows employers to test. There are very few exemptions from that rule. We also see where during COVID, keep in mind, during COVID or during the pandemic, when there was a serious employment crisis where you were scrambling trying to get employees, people to fill positions, companies were dropping that from their panel because they saw it as an opportunity to maybe not preclude someone from employment and keep their process going, keep productivity, and not have any downtime. We also see it where there are states that have the recreational marijuana, but do allow employers to test for it still, but maybe they don't want to test because they don't want to test in the pre-employment aspect of it, because they're coming in outside of their company, and maybe they don't want to include marijuana during the pre-employment side, but they will include it in their post-hire program. Certainly, if there's an accident and you have a post-accident policy in your, you can still include that marijuana portion because maybe your policy is zero tolerance. You can still include marijuana in a random program. So again, post-hire testing, that's where we're seeing it, but some have dropped it from their pre-employment portion. And especially if you're doing a remote hire, you have to be cognizant of what state you're hiring that person to work in. You've got to be aware of what those state laws are, even, but at the same time, you can apply your company policy, so there's a lot of aspects that come into play there. But yes, we are seeing it. We've also seen a lot of our clients hold their ground and say, no, we really need to prioritize safety and our zero tolerance policy across the board. And that goes for companies that are maybe even just local, like in our Quad City area, Iowa, Illinois area, as well as our clients that have locations all over the country. So thank you for your question.
And then
do we assist or define a safety sensitive role?
Yeah.
We can certainly assist with that. Ultimately, what it would come back to is we can kind of pencil out, talk through the conversation, and then we would ask you probably to go back to your legal counsel to shore all of that information up on what would be safety sensitive. And also, that can range from a delivery driver to someone that is moving around some parts in your storeroom or packages or boxes. Is that a large portion of their job, of their day-to-day job, or is it a small portion? And break it down in percentages. Is it 10% of their day or less? We can talk through some of that information, but again, the final decision would come down to what your company would like to say. You can also fall back on some federal regulations there. DOT especially can play into that, transportation industry. We can help you navigate that as well. I hope that answered your question. And then I love that. Employees want flexible schedules, and that came from the healthcare industry. That is absolutely true. There is no, especially for, I'll be biased there. I love my hybrid schedule. And I love that I have technology at my fingertips to allow that. So something to definitely keep on track there. So back to the marijuana impact. Some employers have also removed it from their test panel. Again, before you go into this, definitely weigh the pros and cons to testing or not testing. Also consider the safety sensitive roles. And I've kind of already touched on that thanks to the questions in the chat there. And so I definitely appreciate that. So those are the big changes that we have identified in the industry. And so next we want to talk a little bit more about what are the challenges that you may have impacting hiring and onboarding.
Yeah, once again for the group, any challenges you could share with us to discuss today, because we talk with businesses and companies all over the country, and yeah, there's some similar themes with finding the right candidates, and we don't want to lose a candidate to our competition or to another job. But what are the challenges that you may have? And it could be a range of items, but just if you want to share with the group and some of the things, because we focus in on the background checks and that onboarding process, and how can we make that more streamlined.
So some of the possible challenges that we've identified in our nook of the onboarding process, because we know that we're not the whole process, we're not part of the entire picture, but we are an important piece to the whole puzzle in terms of background screening. And maybe some of those include the lack of qualified candidates, like Dan mentioned, losing someone to the competition. But really what we're noticing more than ever is the onboarding experience. Is your existing program cumbersome? And is it representing your company brand, or is it representing your image and your culture, your company culture well enough? Turnaround time. I see that there are some mentioning they have issues with turnaround time, significant delays. We are kind of coming out of some of that delayed criminal, especially turnaround time, with all of the issues we saw during the pandemic with court closures and such. But if you are having turnaround time issues, certainly you'll need to consult with your consumer reporting agency partner, which we shorten up to CRA. So if you hear us use CRA, that's what we mean, just a PERMAR, another version of PERMAR. So turnaround time, is that an issue? Is it impacting you so much that you're losing qualified candidates due to it? Talk with your CRA, find out why that's happening. We have an arsenal of solutions that we can use if we see something backlogged, or if we have a court that is not getting back to us very quickly. There's always a solution. So definitely don't feel like you have to just absorb that turnaround time or extended turnaround time all the time. But again, at the same time, there are occasions where there's nothing we can do about it. But there's usually something we can do or try to do. Ghosting. Okay, I seem to have a lot of applicants who apply but never answer or return calls. Something that is very much a reality. And we've heard that for a couple of years now, at least. I'm sure a lot of you have some experience in that. Struggles in filling swing shift positions. Long wait times. What are some of the solutions that any of you have found to hiring a swing shift person or position? Are there any tips or tricks that you have found that work for you? Feel free to put that in the chat or speak up. We're happy to have it.
And I think too, with the onboarding experience that you have at your company, that goes a long way also. And this was mentioned at the last conference too. You know, deep dive into the existing employees, ask them what they liked or didn't like about their onboarding experience. And maybe there's something you can tweak and change or eliminate where it makes it, you know, hey, you know what, from when we're attracting these candidates and we're all trying to attract the quality candidates, we want to make sure from the first time they meet us and make that first impression to when we actually, you know, offer and they start working for us, that they have a great experience where, you know, it gives them confidence that who they're working for, we're organized, we're not making things, as it says in the slide, you know, too cumbersome for somebody, you know, where it discourages people from, you know, I'm going through this process, I don't like it, I don't like, you know, it's not for me. This must be how the whole company works. If this onboarding process is this, you know, difficult for me to, you know, work and do and complete.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you're trying to attract those candidates and I see the questions coming in, you know, that's where you take advantage of that technology again and make it simple, easy to use, and, you know, and keep communicating. We can't say it enough with your CRA, because maybe there's pain points in there that, you know, just like Amy's pointing out, she hears about the ghosting or she hears from someone else. Well, this is what they, you know, we can share what people have tried and maybe it's a good fit for you, or give you an advice what we've seen work. But I think that's your biggest challenge is, you know, you going after quality candidates, how easy can we make this and streamline the system to be?
Okay, I like this. Uh, from Megan, we find that our hires, especially off shift, need a good understanding of their schedule due to training and resources first that can be hard for them with children, etc. So really in the beginning, maybe it starts there. You know, how is your uh, organization presenting itself? Are they, I'm seeing some challenges here that maybe, you know, showing them that you're flexible and you have different tools to work with can help resolve some of those challenges that you encounter, such as the ghosting. Um, are you able to text them? Sometimes getting personal and just sending kind of a short text. We have several texting features that we utilize here at Permar when we are working with applicants one-on-one. Let's say maybe they're not getting back to us for additional references that they need to supply us with. A text message goes a long way. We will get all sorts of messages, and sometimes we are the avenue to let the employer, our client, find out that that applicant's no longer interested in the position or candidate. So text messaging is a great tool. We don't use our cell phones, of course. We have different tools that we use, both built into our background website as well as an external option to deploy those messages, but it comes through as a standard text message to those candidates. So something to consider. Then we kind of wanted to find out, you know, what's also important to your company when it comes to hiring. And building your background check program. Is it just skills? You know, do they need a certain set of skills to do this job? And of course, there are a set of skills for every position out there, and you all are very much the experts in that arena, of course. But how do you prioritize those skills, and how are you checking into that? Safety. Is safety important to this position? Character. For example, are they, you know, bedside manner in the healthcare industry? How are you finding out how well they've done that in the past? Credentials. Now, this can be applied to education, certifications. There's all sorts of positions that you want to find out. Do they have the education to back up what they need to fulfill this role? And are you checking that in your background program? Is drug-free workplace important to you? And if it is, how can we navigate those new laws that we just got done talking about? And we think that, checking the questions again, there we go. You know, when reviewing your process and your new program, you really need to take a look at what's important to your company now that maybe wasn't important to your company or organization 3-4 years ago, because we've known now that so much has changed with especially a new generation entering the workforce, other generations leaving the workforce. How has that changed? What's important? Do you now realize that you need to focus on your company culture, and how can your background check help that or aid in that? What's critical to your success that has changed the way you do background checks? Do you feel like your background process is easy for you to manage and execute? If anybody has, you know, we put that out there to all of you. What do you think part of your current process and program, what's working right now for you? Let us know in the chat or feel free to chime in anytime. We'd love to know and kind of talk through that and share tips and tricks. Maybe you've recently made some changes or are considering some changes.
A lot of, we get a lot of feedback too from, companies about just the safety aspect of doing a good, thorough background check for their environment, that people who come work at that company know that they do a deep dive and they feel secure where they go to work. It's a peace of mind thing. So not only you're trying to find out good people to fulfill a job opening, but you're also, that culture and environment and, security, you're accomplishing that too. You're sending a message to your employees, or prospective employees that we take it serious, it's important to us, and we care about our employees.
So that leads us into then is things to consider for better return on investment here. Because if you're going to take a look at your program, whether you make one small tweak to it or a massive overhaul and shift to a new agency, it is important to consider now how that background check is going to give you a return on investment. Because it is part of the puzzle with onboarding, but a very important part. And we have a handful of things that we think everyone should consider, every employer should consider when they go and review their policy and program right now. And for starters, again, reiterating what is important and how am I going to incorporate that into my program? Are credentials important? It's time to maybe scrutinize those higher level positions. We just saw the Great Resignation. So people going from one company to the next. And then in the media, we also heard, or, polls were showing that maybe the grass wasn't always greener. So some might have returned to that previous employer. Others are just grinding it out or looking for another new one. But with that being said, yeah, there's a fight for a qualified candidate, but maybe you do want to scrutinize that person or that candidate a little deeper. And now you wouldn't be keeping that specifically to just one person, but for that role in its entirety, especially those higher level positions, those leadership positions. The more you scrutinize that person's skills, expertise, what they bring to the table before you bring them in, all the better. Consider adding customized programs per position. Probably the way of the past was having just one kind of big, consistent background program for every single position in your company, but really truly take a look at what each position does and the application. Are they managing a large sum of assets? Is a credit report more important now? Do I need to go in more depth with criminal checks? Are they going to be handling secure information off site? And how can I find out more about their integrity? How can I find out more about their productivity from the past? Essentially, do more than the basics is a big one.
I think you get a lot of good information from the people that are currently managing, managers at your company and workers. You get an idea of what's important, you know what I mean, to that, kind of going off the point one there, that when you're trying to design something, okay, this is what I think the position calls for. Here's the way I would write it. But when you talk and with your employees, your current employees and managers, it might give you an idea how to maybe, here's a good thing that we want to check for that position, or a question we want to ask, customize it. to get the best person in there.
Great point. And then next, take a look at your criminal program. What are you doing for that part? Again, is it just the basics? Is it something that the state you are working in is mandating? We find, especially in the healthcare industry, they're required to do a criminal check through the state, a variation of the state repository. But keep in mind that is only going to search that state. So in Iowa, it would only check the Iowa DCI, or Illinois, it's only going to check Illinois State Police repositories. So it's leaving out potentially other areas where there's been address history. So make sure that you're covering a full 7 years worth of address history. Work with your provider in checking whether you're doing counties or states to kind of supplement that. We have a lot of healthcare clients that do a full criminal background check as a preliminary part of their process. And then their next step is to do the regulations portion of it, the part that the state mandates, because it just kind of helps them find out whether they need to take that next step or not, or what those steps might include. So always take a look at your scope when it comes to criminal. The next portion, Dan, do you want to take this one? 3?
Yeah, I think this is a very important point to check, find out about their character and quality of work. A lot of companies are adding the professional reference check. So basically, you're not just calling we verified employment. We're actually talking to a professional reference that person worked with, or, it was a manager they had. So you're getting to the point where it's not like, say, just getting a couple things and, some companies just check a box. This is actually questions to get a deeper dive into, can you please explain, certain traits or character, whatever, as far as Dan's quality of work, things that strengths, weaknesses, that they had. And you get a feel for, okay, on the job, this is a good, maybe fit for us. These are good questions, and you can help even design the questions, to get that quality of applicant, a better understanding of who they are. So I think professional reference checks are good because it gives you more information to make a good sound decision off of.
And I'll add to that. There are some companies out there, some employers out there that still do professional reference checks in-house. Having a third party do it adds an unbiased approach. We all know that we want to get that person in there expeditiously. It's a race against the clock a lot of the times. And if you are, say, leaning towards crossing off maybe that second or third reference because you really just want to get them started tomorrow or the following Monday, having a third party do that really cuts out those shortcuts that you might take. And ultimately, you'd fall out of compliance if you didn't do the same background check for that person that you do for the next person in that same position. So I highly, highly recommend using another party. And also the workload alone. Let someone else with all of the bells and whistles and tools reach out to these people. So the next one is, and this has kind of been a theme throughout this entire roundtable, is implement technology where it's available. Go to your consumer reporting agency, your CRA, find out what's already built into the platform that you're using. We personally have a lot of different features we can deploy. We just need to know what you're looking for. What problems can we solve? We have unlimited resources there. Some companies we're actually finding out a lot more just in the last year, are wanting to integrate their applicant tracking platform with the background screening portion. It's a simple plugin. We have several partners, one of them being UKG. If you're familiar with that, plug it in. It's going to improve turnaround time. So I know we had that question posed in the chat. Turnaround time. Let's get those compliance documents, those release forms, those authorization forms. Let's crank that stuff out a heck of a lot faster than the old-fashioned way of using a hard copy paper format, which ultimately equals faster onboarding. Is your process cumbersome right now? Streamline it with technology. If you're a Permar customer, if you're considering being a Permar customer, let's talk about how technology or the features we have built in and would be free could streamline your process and be a better experience for all parties. So, you are included in that better experience. Your candidate is part of that experience. Us, the CRA, we are also part of that. So the more technology that you deploy, that you utilize in your process, makes our lives even better. We can do our jobs better. It's also easier for remote and hybrid hires. As you know, we talked about it earlier. Having technology helps us in that role. And one thing we haven't addressed yet, it's better data security. There is so much confidential information, PII out there when it comes to screening, and utilizing technology to gather that data keeps it out of hands that are unnecessary to the process. So it can go from the candidate entering that data straight to the consumer reporting agency, and no one else needs to see any of that information in between there. So it's super secure, tight. We incorporate a lot of encryption in our platform, of course. So, and that if anybody wanted to ask any more questions about that, I'd be happy to dig into that rabbit hole there. Going to go down the questions. Looks like we might have had some more there. And then fifth, when it comes to return on investment, consider the applicant's experience. How do you want to stand out to that younger talent, especially that younger talent? Again, aid with turnaround time. Do you have mobile-friendly tools as an option? You may not need it, but make sure that your screening agency has that. We do it all the time for our customers. We'll follow up on any question that we might need. Are we scheduling appointments for them? Have they gone in for their drug test? Different things happen, and communicating via mobile-friendly ways is one of the benefits that we have here. Company branding options. When you utilize technology, you can certainly tap into some of those templates. For example, like the tech industry, they're very well known for being a little bit more on the casual side, wanting to let those tech people in and show them that you can be who you are with our company. They keep it nice and casual. They like to use language that's relatable. Do you want to include your company logo? Find out if that's an option for you. Let's set the stage for your company culture through the background screening process. And we can do that by modifying templates. We can do that through the screening searches or verifications that we're doing, like reference checks. There's just a multitude of ways to find out how to implement your own company culture into the background screening process. And Dan, I'm going to let you take number 6.
Yeah, no, just kind of going off on the mobile friendly tools. We can't say it enough to really explore that to everybody out there. Look at how you're doing things and talk to your CRA and really, because it's all about time, right? We're talking about turnaround time, a couple of questions on that, and your time. You got a million things to do and accomplish, but some of these technology things that are out there can save you and get you on to the next thing. Number 6, the prioritized communication with your GRHRA partner. We've always found that the people and the clients that we talk to the most, and sometimes it could be an issue they're having, something unpleasant even that we have to work through together, solve a problem for them, or just hey, what do you think about this? Have you guys heard about that? The more we talk and find out about each other's capabilities, the more successful everything is. So if we can, help them smooth out a process, well, then their candidates can enjoy a smoother, streamlined process. So, I would say whoever your contact is at your CRA, make time and have a couple questions ready for them on the technology side, have a couple questions for them maybe on the compliance side, something that, hey, you know what, these are all things we want to do. We got to make time for them, and it's going to help our overall process. So I think if everyone comes up with a game plan, that way, it kind of help you when you start, peeling some of these layers and, way of your background program. But
Yes.
I think there's a lot of companies out there, you're not alone, where it's been a while since they've looked at something. And as we're all coming out of this, pandemic and everything, and into the kind of a new era here of hiring and job requirements and remote office and all that good stuff. It's time now, to look at it.
Yeah, definitely lean on your CRAs for the expertise to guide you to the right amount of criminal searches, to guide you to the right amount of verifications and testing that you need to fill in those holes, because you don't want to leave any holes in your search scope. You want to make sure that you've got it locked down. And the more you talk to them, like Dan said, the better your program is going to be. So we thought talking, giving you a little bit more guidance on what to expect from your CRA partner is also, super important to how you can get the most out of your background program. And so what you should expect that'll help you stay productive are things like leaning in on them as the experts. Do they offer assistance with legal terms? Are they easy to connect with at that? When you receive a criminal report back and, some of that legal terminology can be super confusing. And when you are able to quickly find out an answer and, have your consumer reporting agency define that for you and make it more applicable in a real life type situation, it just makes your process smoother. It helps you stay productive. You can continue on with your onboarding process. Sometimes things are so construed that you need help getting those results explained. And again, are they available to you? They should be available to you, and they should be readily available. Are they available for assistance with compliance or adverse action? Is that something that's important to you? Is your company maybe a little bit, especially on the smaller side, and that's not something that you want to take on, or you don't feel, confident in your knowledge of what compliance looks like as it pertains to background screening? Rely on your CRA. They should be experts in that area as well. And they should have all the tools for you, forms, letters, whatever it is you need. Your CRA should have that and be readily available to supply it. Are they able to troubleshoot in real time? We keep talking about technology, but we know technology isn't always our friend. Sometimes it can be our foe. Sometimes we have to be ready and willing to pop in on a phone call with a candidate and troubleshoot their, Google Chrome. How do we get them back into their quick app feature where they're inputting all of their information and signing those disclosures? That's something that from our Certainly offers, and we are always available for. I would expect that from any CRA if I were on the other side of the partnership. Do they provide custom services that meet your needs? Maybe you're unique enough, or you don't even have to be that unique, but you need something outside of a box, type service. a lot of the times our clients come on board with us, and it's not it's an out of the box type of program that we're putting together for them. We're adding special services. Do they want us to contact them when the verification additional fees might be over $50? Do they want us to reach out to their candidates if they're not responding to their quick app in a certain amount of time? And how do they want us to reach out to them? Did they want to supply us with a template, that reads in a certain way? Again, to point the arrow back to your company culture, your image, how do you like to communicate with your candidates? And then, of course, I got out of track there. They should have an abundance of tech features. If your applicant tracking system is not one that they can integrate with, certainly keep looking. There's so many out there, that can integrate together, use that plugin. A lot of our clients that have started to use the applicant tracking side of requesting background checks, very happy with it. Massive workload off of their desk, and it works really slick. And then on the other side, if you don't have that applicant tracking feature, you can always use whatever's built into your background, your consumer reporting agency's platform. For us, that would be Quick App, where we do everything electronically. We have an abundance of additional bells and whistles. Again, you just need to make sure that you're reaching out to your consumer reporting agency to find out more. There's post-hire checks that could be beneficial. And that's kind of a newer part of the industry. Annual or periodic MVRs. I saw a question about pre-hire MVRs. Definitely, if they're in a driving position, and continue to do those. Criminal monitoring, continuous monitoring, that's a big service that's trending now. Government sanctions and exclusions monitoring. Are you in healthcare? Especially in healthcare. Let your consumer reporting agency help with that. Post-hire testing, random drug testing program, post-accident testing. All of these help retention with a positive company image, maintaining compliance, professional accountability. And employees just find comfort in continuous vetting, and also employers that do a pre-hire check. So something to consider after you review your pre-employment process, for sure, though.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to cover there, so we appreciate everybody's time and focus. And hopefully there's something that you could maybe take out of there, whether it was, hey, we're going to take a deeper dive look at technology or customization of our background checks or professional references. We might look at, looking at that, or, maybe we're going to expand, some different things of what we look for, or we're going to get feedback from our current employees. Hopefully there's something in there that you took today that will help you improve. And maybe, we started out with, hey, covering blind spots, but something that'll help you guys improve your company, your culture, and the results that you're getting. And if there's anything we can ever do for you, as far as any consultation or just a thought, just please reach out to Amy or myself, and we're more glad to help you. We're glad to be a part of the organization and want to continue to support it and its members.
Thank you very much, Amy and Dan. That was a wonderful, informative presentation. Now, if anybody has any questions, please turn on your mic and feel free to ask the questions or put them in the chat. We have just a couple minutes here for questions. All right, it looks like that is it from today.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who attended this program. Thank you all. Have a very good day.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.